Hey y'all, hey, it's your girl Morgan Renee tuning in with another reading, Story Time with More and My. We are finishing up Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made by Virginia B. Berry and Donna Grant. We're in chapter 27. I'm going to get right into it. I do recall from the last chapter it was getting real heated. Patricia been recently married Marcus on a whim. They out sailing around, doing wedding and honeymoon stuff. She come back into town and go eat dinner with one of the young ladies she met through A Hand Up, which is the organization that her father, what's his name, Terry Hughes, who is not acknowledging her as his daughter when she let him know, because he was trying to get her for her body, not realizing that was his Chap. Think she's trying to scan him. Anyway, she met this little girl through A Hand Up, which is his program, and went to go have Thanksgiving dinner with her, and ran into her old childhood friend Gail Saunders and her daughter Vanessa, who was the new friend to the little girl that Patricia was going to go visit. And she offered him to come over to her apartment and didn't tell Marcus. Marcus was out playing baseball, doing something. No, he's not playing baseball, but he's out doing something with his career. And Patricia just had him moved in. So let's see what... And she hasn't told him. So let's see where this goes. Sometimes when you gamble, you lose everything. This place is beautiful, Pat. Gail put the last shopping bags in the second bedroom. In this room, you didn't have to do all this. My pleasure. Pat sat on the foot of a twin bed. The move didn't take long. She hired a station wagon from a car service, and they were done in one trip. The hardest part was leaving Darlene. Pat promised Vanessa she could call and that Darlene could come soon for a sleepover, but she still looked crushed as they drove off. The closet and dresser are empty. There are storage bins under the beds. Let me know if you need more space. We'll find it. There's plenty of room for our stuff. We'll unpack now. Gail was mortified when she caught the doorman looking askance as she stood in the hall amid her collection of odd bags and boxes. The sooner they were empty, the sooner she could throw them all away. All you can see from this window is another building. Vanessa peeked through the blinds. And I have to share a room with you? Nessa, you make it sound like punishment. We'll have our own refrigerator again. Nothing is yours except what's in those bags, Gail. I mean, Aunt Pat will let us put things in her refrigerator. You were right the first time, Pat said, which means we can decide what we eat, what we want to eat, and when we want to eat it, like Friday night chocolate chip sundaes. I never thought I looked forward to scrambling an egg. Gail almost lost it, but she held back her tears. She had to help Vanessa cope with this transition. Be strong for her. How do they expect people to live in rooms this small? In our real house, the rooms were twice as big as this, maybe 3 times. Vanessa plunked down on the bed opposite Pat, conspicuously unimpressed. Don't let me hear one more complaint from you. Aunt Pat didn't have to invite us here, Gail snapped. I don't want her to think I raised a monster. Vanessa folded her arms across her chest in an under-protest silence. Make yourself useful. Put your clothes away. I don't know where they go. You always tell me you're a big girl. Figure it out. My leg hurts, Vanessa whined. Then you need to stay here and rest until you feel better. Then put your clothes away. I'm going to the kitchen. Vanessa flung herself on the bed and faced the wall as Pat and Gail left the room. She's not usually so rude. Gail leaned against the kitchen counter. I understand. She's had one shock after the other. Now she's living with this strange lady you say is her aunt. It could put you in a bad mood. What can I get you? Pat asked. Just point me to the tea kettle, Gail said. I don't own one. I drink coffee all the time, but the pots are right behind you. Never mind. Gail, it's no trouble. Boil the water, and I think I have tea bags hidden in one of these drawers, courtesy of Chinese takeout. No, really, it's fine. I just said tea to say something. Okay, the first rule is nothing is a problem. I'll give you the easy, sleazy tour of the apartment, but if you don't see what you need, look for it like you would at home. Pat reached for a saucepan, ran water, and put it on to boil. I sound like Marcus with my rule number 1. Is she in pain often? Pat asked. More than she should be. Sometimes she uses it to get attention or to punish me, but she's still got a lot of problems. I'm working on getting her treatment. Everything is so much harder now. But hey, we have an address. A ritzy one at that. And we are not your responsibility. I'm sure you've got a job that keeps you running. Are you still in advertising? Gail opened the cabinet door. Cups? Over there, Pat pointed. I was. Now I'm a displaced executive. Pat told her the CGG story in a nutshell. Why didn't you tell me? You don't need us here. You've got problems of your own to deal with. Gail poured hot water in her cup. I don't know the first thing about what's going on in your life, and I plunked myself down in the middle. I should know better. Tell you the truth, I'm taking a breather. I've been killing myself, and I'm not sure what for. They gave me a generous kiss off. They give me time to figure out that gives me time to figure out what I want to do next. What I really need to figure out is how I'm going to tell Marcus about you. It's their loss. You always so smart. You'll find an even better job. Gail scanned the countertops. She had 100 questions about the father Pat found and what she'd been doing for the last 10 years. But Pat could be sometime and kind of private. And right now, I don't know where the sugar is. Sugar? Where is my head? Pat reached around the chrome canisters and handed Gail the sugar bowl. That's Aunt Loretta's ring she's wearing. Pat wanted to know about the fire and what happened with Ramsey. She probably doesn't want to answer a lot of questions about that. An obvious silence filled the kitchen as Gail sipped her tea and Pat watched. Finally, Pat spoke up. Why don't I show you around? Pots, pans, utensils in the kitchen. Pat was at the supermarket when it opened, and there was more food in the refrigerator than there had been since she lived there. Before they continued, Gail insisted on washing out the pot she boiled water in. Just leave it. No trouble. I don't want to be any trouble to her. Linen closet, toilet paper, soap, shampoo. Use what you need. That's what it's here for, Pat instructed. Gail nodded. TV, VCR, and stereo lessons. Pat showed Gail the ins and outs of Chez Reed, then got 2 sets of keys out of her purse. Gail's on a silver ring, Vanessa's on a pink part. You're so together. Gail closed the keys in her palm, and I'm all in pieces. On the one hand, she was overjoyed at running into Pat. It was like getting a part of her life back. She'd be able to say, remember the time when, and know that somebody else lived it too. But Pat was also the only person who knew what Gail had started out with and how far she had sunk. I'm going to check on Nessa. You do whatever you were planning. Don't let us hold you up. You're not. I'll rustle up lunch. Don't go to any trouble, Gail said. Soup and sandwiches. I can handle it. Oh, and Pat, I have a girlfriend I used to work with, Denisa. I called to let her know I was moving, and said I'd let her know the phone number. I don't have many folks to call these days, but I can give you a little toward the phone bill if you forget it. You let me worry about the bills and how I'm going to keep you from picking up Marcus on the phone. Pat wanted to sit in the bedroom with Gail and Vanessa and talk while they worked, but she fixed lunch and pretended not to hear them arguing. I don't want to call her Aunt Pat. I don't even know her. And you said she hasn't seen me since I was a baby. Lunch was strained. Pat had fixed hot roast beef on rolls and beef barley soup. What? Yeah. Roast beef on rolls and beef barley soup. Vanessa wasn't interested in either. Since when don't you like roast beef? Gail asked, incredulous. What would you rather have? Pat asked. There's not a thing wrong with her lunch. Maybe she just wants something else. I wasn't thinking. I should have asked. So, Vanessa, what would you like? Peanut butter and jelly, Vanessa announced. Whole wheat toast okay? Yes, she said. Yes, thank you, Gail corrected. Vanessa mumbled the magic words. Coming right up. When Pat put the plate in front of her, she said, since we're just getting to know each other, you can figure out what you want to call me. Miss Reed is more formal than I can stand, so that leaves Aunt Pat or just plain Pat. You make up your mind. Patricia, she is still a little girl. Times have changed. Pat bit into her sandwich. Maybe too much. The days that followed were pretty much the same. Pat and Gail ran neck and neck for Miss Congeniality, and Vanessa held her own as pitiful Pearl. Fortunately, Marcus had no time to call until late at night. After Pat was already in bed, she would pick up and half a ring. Been waiting for me, huh? He told her about his stint in Provo, Utah, to check out a junior who looked like a Heisman hopeful for his senior year. I leave for Seattle in the morning. How's my surprise? Still surprising, was the only thing she could think of to say. Maybe I have one more for you, too, he said. After Gail returned from walking Vanessa to her new school, she found Pat weeding through old magazines. Do you mind if I hang a few things up on the bedroom wall? Of course not. You really should get those framed eventually. They're beautiful. I don't know about all that. It's just what I do to keep my hands occupied and my head from rolling off my shoulders. Seriously, there's got to be a way for you to earn a living with your talent. I'm sure you'd like it better than word processing. Pat tossed the magazine on the discard pile. I don't have any formal training. What should I do? Take one of those correspondence courses from the back of a magazine? You know, if you can draw a Skippy, you can be an artist. That won't do anything to help me pay my bills. I don't know, but there has to be a way to market yourself, Pat said. I think you've got advertising on the brain. Trust me, when it comes right down to it, everything is marketing. I've been thinking about commissioning one. A pity painting. Not pity, just pretty. Anyway, you need a hand hanging those pictures? If you're not busy. Do I look busy? Gail removed her artwork from between pieces of cardboard she taped around them so they wouldn't get bent. I like having one of Mom and Daddy around. It keeps me company in between visits. You still go to the cemetery every month? Mostly. When I was working 2 jobs, it was hard getting there on the day I liked, Daddy's birthday. I missed a couple of months with Vanessa in the hospital too, but she was better this month, so I went. I hadn't checked on Mama's grave until then. She takes her mother and father above the head of her bed. Without my car, I had to take the railroad, but it's not a bad ride. There's a stop right there, and it gives me time to think. It's funny, I haven't felt like I could talk to Ramsey. I sure can't go visit him out in the middle of the ocean. Pat wasn't sure what to say. The landscape would look good over the bureau. After they secured the painting, Gail looked at it wistfully. This one's okay, but the things I love the most, I did for Vanessa when she was little. Did you lose those too? Fortunately, they survived. Gail moved the lace tablecloth she used to camouflage the banged-up footlocker and took out the stack of L. Crocker books. Underneath was Vanessa's baby picture with her bronze shoes. She'll probably fuss, but I love this picture. It was Ramsey's favorite too. Gail set it on the bureau and handed Pat the books. These are amazing. Pat lay on her stomach on Vanessa's bed and paged through the storybooks. You wrote the stories and illustrated them and everything? I used to love doing it, just to see Vanessa's little eyes sparkle and have her ask me a million questions about how the magic shoes work. She used to enjoy them so much. I know it's hard to believe she ever liked anything based on the way she's been acting, but she was such a happy little kid. Gail lay on the bed looking up at the ceiling. Pat continued reading the books. I sold a few of them at a Christmas bazaar once. Even had a boutique owner ask me to do more for her shop. Did you? No, Ramsey didn't think it was a good idea. Nanny-made junk, he called them. Are you serious? What did you think about that? I didn't. I always loved to thinking of him. See where that got me. Gail sat up abruptly. Where's the grocery store? I thought I'd fry some chicken for dinner. Vanessa loves it. I haven't made any in a long time, unless you had something else in mind. Home fried chicken? I can't remember the last time I had any. Pat rolled up one elbow. And you gotta have collards and cornbread to go with it. And dirty rice and candy yams. Maybe a pineapple upside down cake for dessert. Stop, I give, let's go. They went to 3 stores before they found greens they liked. But when they got everything home, the cooking commenced. I can handle this, Pat. You don't have to. You can't cook food like this by yourself. It ain't right. Besides, I don't remember the last time I cooked in here. My neighbors will think somebody moved in. Pat pulled a brand new chef's apron from the drawer and threw one to Gail. Pat picked greens, washed the chicken, and chopped onions, celery, garlic, pepper while Gail started the cake, then put the greens on the cook. It didn't take long for the aromas to make the house smell the way Sunday dinner used to. Remember when Aunt Loretta would put us out on the back steps with a gigantic bowl of string beans and snaps? We really thought we were working hard, Pat said. Peas were worse. We'd be shelling for days and still only have enough for 2 people. Then Daddy would grab a handful of them raw. We'd grab a handful and eat them raw. It used to make me so mad. Gail wiped flour off her hands and started cracking eggs. Mama used to cook like this every week, made rolls from scratch, and most of it done before we went to church. I don't know how she did it, but my favorite was when she baked a ham. Daddy would slice the skin off and make crackling. I used to couldn't wait to cut off a hump and slap it on a frankfurter bun so you could sneak up in our room. The bread didn't matter either. It was the meat, honey. Pat waved the celery stalk for emphasis. They laughed, open-mouthed belly laughs that seemed fed by the luscious aromas. Mama was talking about you and your hand eating the night before she died. Conversation stopped for a bit, but the space was filled with the hiss of simmering pots, steam rattling their lids, a knife crackling on the cutting board, and the dull slap of a wooden spoon against the sides of a glass bowl full of batter. Pat put a scrubbed yam on the drain board. What happened to Aunt Loretta in the fire? Did she suffer much? I've prayed every day since that she didn't. Gail seasoned, stirred, and related what happened from the first roast to the last fiery night. Pat was through chopping onions, but she wiped tears from her cheeks with the back of her hand. I don't even know what to say. There's nothing to say. I know what you mean. Gail left to retrieve Vanessa from school, and the kitchen smells that met her at the door seemed to improve even her mood. She did her homework without complaint, and then, a week late by the calendar, they sat down to a gut-busting, gravy-stopping feast. Once, Vanessa even asked, please pass the rice, Pat, which at least meant she was trying out a name. Vanessa had managed not to call her anything up to that point. Mealtime talk went back to everyday life, Vanessa's new teacher, and the best times for Gail to use the laundry room. But the frosty climate had moderated at least into the temperate zone, and comments were punctuated by lip smacking and satisfied sighs. After dessert, they all rolled into Pat's bed to watch a Charlie Brown Christmas because they were too stuffed to sit up. Vanessa soon fell asleep, and Gail and Pat crept into the other room. Wait a minute. After dessert, they all rolled into Pat's bed to watch Charlie Brown Christmas because they were too stuffed to sit up. Vanessa soon fell asleep, and Gail and Pat crept into the other bedroom. They took up their respective spots on the twin beds. Tell me what happened when you found your father. Verna turned to say the required sherry. Pat glossed over the part Marcus had played in her eventual introduction. I don't care how much money he has. He must be a pathetic man. Gail leaned back into the pillows she had propped against the wall. And if he was like that with his flesh and blood, imagine what he was like with your mother. Probably twice as nasty. I'm not sure if I can ever be objective about Verna, though. Pat took a sip of sherry, noticed Gail absent-mindedly looking at her hands while she listened. I always wondered why she hated me so much, and I guess I can see how that could happen. It doesn't go deeply to change the way she made me feel, but then I know how you can do things you regret when you're old enough to be grown and still too young to see what's happening until it's too late. Tell me about it, Gail said. I was scared I'd be like her after the whole mess happened with PJ. I couldn't put a kid through that. I still wonder if I made a mistake. I should have been there to help you figure it out, or hold your hand, whatever you needed. After Ramsey died, I realized a lot of things about myself. A lot of them I don't like very much. I wish I could have seen that before. Gail looked over at Pat. I know. Each let her thoughts settle into place, and after a while, Pat said, there's nail polish and files and stuff in the bathroom closet if you want it. My hands look like I've been walking on them. Gail went out and came back with the manicure tools, polish, and 2 old magazines to lean on. There's red in there. Pat always thought of Gail with red nails. It's a little too spicy for me right now. I'll start with clear and work my way up. Gail winked and started filing. You know, I've been thinking, ever since you showed me those storybooks. Is that what I smelled? Yep. Fried brain. I'll pass. Thank you. Seriously, those stories are great. The pictures are wonderful. What would you say if I asked you to go into business? That last part didn't make no sense. What? You know, I've been thinking ever since you showed me those storybooks. Is that what I smelled? Yep. Fried brain. I'll pass, thank you. Seriously, those stories are great. The pictures are wonderful. What would you say if I asked you to go into business with me, publishing L. Crawford's adventures? Pat sat cross-legged on the bed. That I'll get you 2 aspirin. You should stay in bed till your fever breaks, Gail said. It's not as crazy as it sounds. This year I've spent a lot of time looking for books for Darlene, and there's not a lot to choose from for little black girls or boys, for that matter. Pat's voice gained momentum with excitement. There's a need, and I was thinking L. Crawford is the beginning of a way to fill it. I don't have 2 cents to rub together, Pat. I do. You've already created a product. Do you think you could come up with some more adventures? Sure, but great. I think mail order is a way to go. We could start with L. Crawford books, maybe Dolls next, and down the line, who knows, maybe a Saturday morning cartoon. Whoa, you're talking about lots of money. How can we do this? Gail asked. On a shoestring to start. I don't know how to publishing business. I don't know the publishing business per se, but I do know how to get things produced. I was always good at coming in under budget, so I figure I can do the same for us. I'm sure I can scare up a few people to give us free advice, Pat replied. You can't risk your money on something this crazy. Why is it crazy? If a big publisher did it, we'd say they had vision and rush to the store to buy it. Besides, I'd rather put my money to work than leave it in the bank for my old age. I expect to have a few good years left to earn more. If this doesn't work, I'll go back to being an employee, but I haven't been jazzed by much of anything since I was canned. It's worth the gamble. You say it like it's a joke, Patricia. Sometimes when you gamble, you lose everything, Gail snapped. Bad choice of words. I apologize. I'm just saying that I think it's a fabulous idea, one worth investing. Will you at least think about it? Pat asked. Gail shaped the tips of 2 more nails. You're crazy, but I'll think about it. They continued to talk, sprawled on their twin beds, filling in the years. Gail finished up the second coat of polish on her pinky and said, so I know you haven't spent all your time in this great, big, pretty apartment by your lonesome. More than I care to remember. I don't like where this is going. Hello, it's me you're talking to. There must have been at least one man in all these years who rocked your world, who made you cool, calm, and collected. Patricia read, see double, and speak in tongues. I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, I still love Ramsey. You what? I know, it's crazy. I hate him for what he did. He was moody, demanding, he stole, lied, and deserted us. My mother is dead. My daughter could have been, but sometimes late at night he comes over me like a fever, and I miss him. Oh, girl, I miss him. Let me tell you how bad it is. If he walked in that door right now and he said, Nightingale, I came back for you, I'm afraid I'd have to tie myself to this bed to keep him going. I'd get ropes, chains, locked, a pit bull, and a shotgun, whatever it took to keep you here till you came to your right mind. And I appreciate that. But come on, Pat. Wasn't there ever anybody you were crazy about? I mean, cuckoo crazy? Here's the opening. Just walk through it. Pat paused like she was thinking. I was like that with PJ. And didn't I make a fool of myself? Not yet. We just got on the right foot. What about now? Who's making your toes curl and your heart happy? Well, there is somebody. I knew it had to be. I want name, age, place of birth, occupation, all the vitals. Lay 'em. Gail counted off the stats on her just dry fingertips. It's too soon to talk. I don't want to jinx it. She's not ready. I'm not either. Early next week, while Vanessa's in school, before we get too far into this project, I'll tell her. If she accepts it, good. If not, I'll move downtown. She can stay here until she straightens out her life, and we'll each go our separate ways. My unscientific gut tells me Ill Crawford appeals to girls aged 4 to 8. Pat poured more hot water into Gail's mug. That sounds right. Gail sat on the living room floor with her sketch pad open on the coffee table. She doodled as she spoke. Before Vanessa got so grown, I had this idea about the magic shoes taking Elle into space. Vanessa was tucked in bed, and after days of brainstorming, Gail felt good taking her artwork seriously for the first time in her life. I like it. After all, we have Mae Jemison. Pat poured a third after dinner cup of coffee, and pinched another hunk of pineapple upside down cake. She'd thrown out the rest of the carton of cigarettes, and if she wasn't going to smoke, she had to do something. She was going great guns on their publishing empire. They had come up with names: Heritage Publishing, Kaumba Press, and Reed Saunders Incorporated emerged on the top of the list. Pat had already spent hours in the library researching mail-order businesses, publishing, and licensing, and she set up a meeting with an attorney she knew to discuss incorporation. Gail sketched the outline of Elle and twirled a lock of hair around her finger. Early in the week, Pat talked her into a trip to the hairdresser. He added shape to Gail's whacked-off do and gave her layers around the face for softness, but she kept the gray. I earned every one of them, she said. I found this article about how a mother from Texas turned a purple dinosaur into an empire. Let me get it. Pat ducked her into her bedroom. The jingle of key and lock startled Gail. Uh-oh. She sprang to her feet. Mrs. Carter, surprise delivery for you. Marcus closed the door, put down his bag. What? Gail stepped into the hall. Uh-oh. Excuse me. Marcus was startled by the stranger. That's the trouble with surprises. They can backfire on you. Marcus? All Gail could do was gawk. He looked just like he did the last time she saw him on TV leaving the DA's office. He was bigger than she remembered, but the last time they actually came face to face was in her parents' house, the day he and Ramsey squared off. Marcus was taller than Ramsey even then. That day was awkward, but in a way, she had been relieved. To this day, she hadn't missed Marcus, ached for him the way you miss a lover who's gone, the way she missed Ramsey. Marcus searched her face for a clue to who she was and how she knew him. Pat came into the hall. Oh, damn. They both turned to her. Mrs. Carter, you and Marcus are married? Gail felt like she had looked the wrong way, stepped off the curb, and been hit by a truck. Gail, I was going to tell... Gail? Marcus looked dumbstruck. Were you going to tell me, Pat, or is this a surprise you were talking about? What are you doing here? You weren't supposed to be home until next week. Pat felt the situation sliding out of her hands. Am I supposed to make an appointment to come home? I didn't think it was necessary after we were married. Rich was called away, and I have to cover for him. I thought you'd be happy to see me. Marcus and Pat scowled at each other, with Gail wedged in between like the referee at a prize fight, but she didn't know the rules for this contest. She was obviously missing a lot of important information, and the best thing she could do was get out of the way before they started swinging. I'll leave you two alone. Gail slipped past Pat and escaped to her bedroom. Arms folded across his chest. Marcus tapped his foot on the floor. You mind telling me what's going on here? Hands on hips, Pat replied. Don't stand there like you think you're my father. I don't answer to him, and I'm certainly not answering to you. Like your father? What is that supposed to mean? I'm not your father. I'm not like your father, but I am your husband. And if you think I'm going to consult with you before I breathe, you can forget it. Gail and her daughter were living in a shelter. I couldn't leave them there. You mean they're living here? I didn't have a chance to tell you. I talk to you every night. What do you mean you didn't have a chance? I know you didn't expect me to ask your permission. Permission? Ain't nobody said nothing about permission. You damn sure could have talked to me about it. What? Is her husband here too? Maybe we can go on a double date. Yeah, I ain't seen him since we almost came to blows and saw him in front hall. He's dead, Marcus. And you said none of that mattered to you anymore. I said we shouldn't have been married. I didn't say I wanted her living in my house. Your house. Keys don't make it your house. It's gonna be like that, huh? Here I was thinking that being married made ours. That's the way it was where I grew up. If I was interested in yours and mine, I'd have stayed single. Well, maybe you should have. Don't think that can't be arranged. Marcus's jaw was clenched, and he was breathing like an angry bull. Pat glared back. He kept coming here thinking he can run my life. Oh, you got nothing to say now, so I guess that's the way you want it. I guess I knew this was a mistake. Bet. He tossed his keys on the hall table. I'm out of here. Dang. That's how it ended. Alright, well, I'll come back on another day to read the rest of this. Lord. She should have just told them both. Better waiting. Alright, tune in with y'all again soon.